Welcome back to some new malicious compliance stories, where people complied to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Guardians of the Machine. At my workplace, we have a machine that was made to create grooves and cuts in cardboard. It's a 20 foot by 20 foot machine, made of iron, wrought iron, and cast iron. The only piece of computer on her was an aftermarket safety system with a lock and key. My workmates and I started to use chalk to make out common settings and help us know if things were rubbing correctly or wrongly. We were using our own money to buy chalk to use at work. One of the guys would buy those massive kids sidewalk chalk pieces that are as thick as a candy bar. During downtime or setups, or while waiting for the last piece to be set up by the last guy, we would take turns carving pieces of chalk into rough shapes like Buddha, Tiki or cats, and it would become the guardian of the machine until we used it. Cue management, seeing us have any sort of fun or engagement as humans, tosses it, demands we never have it in the building again. If it isn't provided by the company, then it isn't allowed. Vibrations start 24/7 as soon as we stop using the chalk. This means that bolts get loose. Pieces rub, friction, heat, cardboard dust, and ultimately, fire. And to this day, there's probably a piece of company bought chalk that has been amateurly carved, sitting on that machine. Never mess with the guardian of the machine. The next story is called Last Day. A few years back, I worked on a relief crew on a drilling rig. The rig ran 24 hours a day with 3 shifts. Crews worked 6 days and then 2 days off. My crew would replace a working crew so they could have their 2 days off. So we worked mornings 2 days, then afternoons and then nights. It was common to find someone to take a shift if you wanted an extra day off, but the replacement had to have the same abilities. A crew had a driller, derrick hand, motorman, chain hand and floor hand. People started as floor hand. And as they learned, they would work their way up with more responsibility and more pay. Sometimes, when someone changed companies, they might take a lower position. So it was common to have someone with derrick hand capabilities working motor or chain. In September, my wife asked about the chances of getting off for Christmas. I checked the calendar, and my days off fell on December 24 and 25th. Done deal. I have it scheduled off. Then I decided to sweeten the pot. I found a guy who would work December 22 and 23 for me. Also found one who would work the 26th and 27th. I took this to my driller, who agreed they could work for me. With my 6 days off, I could drive 400 miles to visit family. Things looked pretty sweet. Too sweet. The other guys on my crew were in the same position, so they all tried to find replacements, and 2 were successful. Unfortunately, the driller only had 3 other guys on the rig who could work for him. And none of them wanted to help. He got mad and said since he couldn't get the time off, none of us could have it off. I reminded him that he had already approved my time. He said that was cancelled, and if I didn't work on December 23rd, then I was a run-off and fired. I told him fine, I will work the 23rd, but that will be my last day of work. Consider this my 3 months notice. At work, nothing much was said for the next few weeks. Outside of work, I was networking and found another job I could start the first week of January. All was set. At the end of my shift on the 23rd, I emptied my work locker and said my goodbyes. The driller barely acknowledged me. Went home and drove to see the family the next day. Spent a relaxing week there and then came back to start my new job. About the end of January, I went to a friend's birthday party. There I saw one of my old crew. He asked me when I was going to go back to work. The driller thought I was just sulking around and would come crawling back soon. He never hired a replacement, and they had been working short-handed for over a month. I said he better hire somebody. I wasn't playing games, and when I said I quit, I meant it. The last story is called Bank Shenanigans. My grandfather was at a point in his life with a wife and a couple of young kids, settled in an apartment, and was working in a factory and painting houses. He was working 2 8-hour jobs, 6 days a week, to provide as well as save money for the future and for the kids. And as it ended up, the grandkids as well. So with about a double income, he was managing to put some money on the side each month. He had gone to one of the local banks and opened up a savings account with a healthy interest. He put in some money, about 5k, and left it to grow. A year later, he went in to put in some more money and start a new plan for another year. The guy told him to go with one of the new plans, where the interest was 2.5%, up from under 2% on the normal end of year paying plan he had. This new plan was paying interest every day. He could also add money each month instead of once a year before starting a new plan. According to Grandpa, even the fine print didn't seem to have any negatives, so he went with it, with about 7k at that point. Around 4 months go by, and he goes in to add some money to the account and asks for the account movements to be updated. Back then, you had a booklet that they put in an old style printer, and it would add only what was not already printed. Brand new tech back then. He gets this printout, and it is 4 months of daily plus 0 interest added. When you do the math, you get about $0.50 per day that was not being paid. He asked why after 4 months of daily payments, his deposit was still the same, and the clerk smirked back that the amount was too small. The system was not calculating cents, just whole numbers. So with his amount being 7k, his daily payment was rounded to 0. He went to the director of the bank office and mentioned everything, together with the fact that for over 100 days, the bank had been keeping for itself 50 cents per day. He asked how that could be legal, because it was robbing the customers. The director just responded with, "In our bank, individual offices have the right to operate semi-independently. This is why we were able to offer such a competitive interest rate. Whilst our bank doesn't offer it officially, we are allowed to set some rules for ourselves. If you don't like it, feel free to change your position." According to my grandfather, he was furious and just stood up and left. He went home and read all the fine prints of the contract again, only to find that information so vaguely written that it could have been talking about weather temperature calculations. He read it once more, and 2 days later he went back to that office bank. He added some money to get the amount to 7,450 and left. No complaints, nothing. He went back 4 days later to update his booklet with recent account movements, and the system was paying $1 every day. Apparently, the system was automatically rounding up to full dollar amounts if you would get more than 50 cents a day. Since he confirmed this, he went to the other banks where he had accounts. He was a smart man and did not want to keep all his money in one place. But now he was on a revenge mission. He took out all his money from the other banks. Then he went back and opened up 2 more accounts with that exact same amount. He also got the bank to pay those interest payments into a separate account, making sure that the amount was just right at 7,450. So he started getting around 3 every day. That was in a period when he was getting paid about 7 a day, for about 15 hours of work from his 2 jobs. This continued for so long that with time passing and him saving more, he managed to get up to 8 such accounts, before they shut down that plan and changed it. According to him, this ran for over 11 years. The way this worked was him pretty much netting a 5% interest rate of the stupidity and arrogance of the bank, just because most people had under 7k in savings. So everyone with that plan was getting robbed whatever they were owed. He said that the interest rate fluctuated up and down a bit, so he ended up getting the amounts up to 8k, just so he wouldn't be losing money when the rate was falling lower. He said that according to his calculations, he netted about 11k over what his money should have earned. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.